Honestly,
media
the
release.
best type of podcasts that I listen to are the ones where like friends are just like talking and they talk over each other and they make mistakes and say weird stuff and laugh about it and be cringy together.
Listen to AT Banter.
We got the cringy part down.
This is the AT Banter Podcast, a balanced and entertaining look at assistive technology, accessibility, and its importance in people's lives. Join Rob Minot, Ryan Fleury, and Steve Barclay as they banter with people around the world about anything and everything regarding assistive technology and the disability community. Now, on with the show.
Hey, and welcome to another episode of AT Banter.
Banter.
Oh, that was a ricochet.
That was a swing and a miss, I think.
That was it.
Followed by a nice recovery.
It was good. We'll keep that.
All right.
We'll allow it. Hey, my name is Rob Minot. Joining me today in the very crowded Anti-Gloom Zoom Room is Mr. Steve Barclay,
Howdy doody.
Mr. Ryan Fleury.
Hello, everyone.
And Ryan, you want to tell the fine folks at home what we're doing today?
Sure. Today on this episode, we have not a newcomer to the show, someone who is familiar to most of our audience, Shawn Marsolais from Blind Beginnings, joining us to talk about a new venture they are launching or have launched. And Shawn has brought some guests along with her today that we're going to talk to. So Shawn, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. It's nice to be back. And with me today, I have three of my youth/young adults.
Thank you.
Aren't
quite youth anymore.
That's true, actually. Yeah, very true. They're all 19
Except in
plus.
Shawn's mind.
So I have Clement and Keisha and Nika with me today.
Hello.
Welcome, guys.
Welcome.
Nice to have you all on board.
I don't think we've ever had this many guests at the same time.
Well, I have to say, when I put it out there to the podcast co-hosts, oops, I guess I just gave away why we're here.
Edit that out.
Spoilers.
No. Well, we have a new podcast. Very exciting. And there's several co-hosts, and they're all Blind Beginnings youth and young adults. And when I put it out to say, hey, they want us on AT Banter, who wants to come? A lot of people wanted to be here. So this is very exciting.
Come on. A lot of people said, AT what?
Yeah, what is that?
What's an AT Banter?
Okay, I might have said it's a podcast.
No, and then she told them about the cowbell, and then they were like, "Oh, okay, we got to get on this show then, because they have a cowbell."
If there's a cowbell, then I want to.
Steve, the cowbell is the driving force of why we're here.
Honestly, for me, the word banter was pretty much the draw. I was like, ooh, banter. I'd love to do that.
Okay, so based on this small focus group, we need to change our name to Cowbell Banter.
Last
I
time
second that motion.
Last time I was here, there was no cowbell because there was no Ryan. So it's really nice that the cowbell's back, and Ryan, of course.
but mostly the cowbell.
Just for
Let's
that.
be honest. All right. Well, you know what? Okay, so let's dive right in then. Let's talk a little bit about the podcast. Shawn, what prompted you to start up a podcast, and what about it felt like it was going to be a good fit for Blind Beginnings?
This is where she's supposed to say she saw AT Banter and decided that she wanted to follow in your footsteps.
Actually, there is a link. The very first time I was on the AT Banter podcast, one of my friends listened to it and said, you should have your own podcast. And I feel like that was 2 or 3 years ago. And I didn't really even know what a podcast was. And then a group of our youth were also interested in starting a podcast. And that's kind of been talked about for at least a year. And it's just taken until now. I think maybe once COVID happened and we had to do everything on Zoom, it sort of took the pressure off of like, how are we going to record this? And do we have the right equipment? And it's like, well, we can do this through Zoom. It's really easy to record through Zoom. And yeah, maybe the quality's not as good as it could be, but this totally works. And it's really easy to bring people in to interview them because they just have to join from their computer. So super excited that we have this up and running finally, because it really has been something I have wanted for a long time.
Well, I have to say, I've been listening to the podcast since it launched.
Oh, you're one of the few people. Yay. Just kidding.
Absolutely. I thoroughly enjoy it. And despite any audio equipment issues, the recording quality is actually really, really good.
Oh, thanks.
So,
well, that's all Rob, but
yeah. So one of the questions I had is, where did the name Limitless come from?
Well, it is our newsletter is called Limitless News, and our tagline is Limitless Potential is All We See. We have a no limits philosophy at Blind Beginnings, so it was sort of a natural fit, and honestly, we couldn't think of anything else, but I love it. I love Limitless. I mean, it's just limitless. It means we can talk about limitless things, but obviously a big focus is on just demonstrating that the potential of people who are blind is also limitless.
And so where do the topics and guests come from? Because you've had quite you've only been five shows so far, but, you've talked about exercise and you've talked about human interest stories. And, the most recent show was, a singer who is blind as well. Tell me how you guys find the guests and come up with the topics.
So it's a group effort, and I think that's where the youth are coming in. I'm really wanting them to pitch ideas. Right now, I mean, I look at it as let's bring in people who have a visual impairment just to show our audience, how varied we are, how different, how talented, how normal, I guess, if I can say that, quote unquote, whatever that means. So yeah, it's been, sometimes it's a program that I want to promote. There has been a little bit of that, definitely, or it's an idea that the youth have brought forward, and that's kind of the point. So they bring forward a suggestion, and then I tell them to line it up. Okay, you want to interview that person, reach out to them. Let's coordinate that and bring them in.
So my follow-up question to that, which is a little bit loaded, is the guests. Do you guys enjoy participating in the show? What do you love about it?
I really love doing a podcast just because that's kind of one of my favorite mediums of entertainment, and because I like podcasts way more than even Netflix, for example. So actually being able to be a part of something and a part of a team that creates something is really cool.
I love being able to discuss in a roundtable setting, which is what most of our shows have been like, because I feel like it's an easier way to connect with people as opposed to being behind a newsletter or a YouTube video that has to be, edited for conciseness. The whole point of a podcast is to talk, right? So I think that's one of the things I really like, is that we can explore things that we might not have time to cover, or the space or length to cover in a newsletter article or a YouTube video, whereas on a podcast you can kind of you have a bit more flexibility in how much time you get with multiple people, and you get different perspectives and you exchange opinions, and of course the banter, because what podcast would be complete without a banter?
That's right.
Are you calling from inside an Alfred Hitchcock movie?
I know, I can hear the crows and
that's
sorry.
That's not me.
Fine.
I don't know who that's Shawn.
No, so
and who's
sorry.
playing the guitar?
We've got
I don't know,
guitar,
that's not
we've
me.
got crows.
It's very
The guitar
bizarre.
is not
There's a Hitchcock movie.
Okay, well, actually, I mean, if you want my opinion as well.
Really, Keisha,
We're gonna go Western now. Sorry.
Yeah, well, it's really funny that we're talking about this right now, and I'm very curious about who's playing the guitar, because I thought that was just you guys doing sound effects or something.
Oh, I wish we had that kind of budget to have sound effects.
Because it sounds really cool.
I think
Anyway, Anyway, I love this candid way that podcasts, this candid like point of view, and that you can like, kind of meet people where they're at, and like if you have like really good conversational hosts, which we do, then the guests feel comfortable and we can lead into these really like organic, fun conversations. And it's just like a great way to just kind of like get some real perspective rather than like rehearsed or like, scripted speeches, that kind of thing. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting that you say that, because I mean, it took us, we probably went through, like 3 or 4 sort of content changes over the first 20 episodes that we had, and we tried everything from like having topic shows where we would try to, we would pick a topic that we would go and research and pull up a bunch of articles for and talk it and be very informational based. And that really didn't work for us. It didn't fit well. So I feel like you guys are kind of ahead of the game, because it's only been 5 episodes, and you guys, I feel like have already kind of found your feet.
I hope so. I don't know. The biggest room in the world is the room for improvement, right? That's what my grandpa taught me. I'm sure that we still have some learning to do, but yeah, it's been fun though. And it's been hard for me to not be perfect and scripted after years of sort of always trying to sound polished and do interviews and be articulate, and then kind of be like, oh, I'm not supposed to be. I'm supposed to just be myself and relax and be conversational. Right. So that's been
and it does come across that way, Shawn. You do come across as conversational, and I really enjoy the format of the show. I find that you guys have a pretty concise format, and the length of the show for me is perfect. About 25-30 minutes or so. You guys accomplish a lot, get a lot of information out, and I think it's great.
Oh, thank you.
Sorry, I was digging that.
Who is that?
Clement.
It's got to be
Clement. I knew it was him since the first.
Yeah.
So can you give us an idea of what kind of topics might be in the future, or what you're thinking about? Or are you guys just kind of going freeform and just playing it week to week?
Yeah, well, it really it kind of changes pretty quick. I know that we have one coming up that is going to be kind of talking. Well, are we allowed to kind of share?
Yeah.
Are we? Yeah. Okay.
Of course.
We
got to sell the future episodes to the
We've got
fans.
one. Yeah. We got a very exciting one coming up about kind of discussing the media representation of visually impaired people in film and television and theater and that sort of thing, which I think will be really, really interesting, and it'll just be kind of a discussion. I'm not so sure we'll actually. Well, yeah, we're still working out the deets on that one, and I know that we have another person who is another one of our podcast group who's doing some work interviewing someone about assistive tech, and just it kind of every week somebody is coming up, or Shawn's coming to us with an idea, or somebody's coming up with an idea that's new every week, and then people are lining things up, so it can change pretty quickly, and it's really exciting.
You guys actually contribute to each other? Robin's paying attention to this?
Oh, touche.
Yeah, I would say we do go pretty freeform in the sense that we don't have ideas planned out, for the next I don't know however long, month or whatever in advance. But yeah, it's like Keisha just said. I think we kind of, whenever somebody comes up with an idea, they'll just kind of throw it out there, in our messenger group and kind of go, hey, so we haven't. I just kind of thought of something, or I saw something today. A lot of people have said this. I saw something really cool on YouTube or on TV the other day, and wondering if we can work this into a topic. And then somebody will say, "Yeah, that sounds good," or Shawn will say, "Yeah, that looks like an interesting idea. Can you find someone to interview?" And then it'll kind of just take off from there. Like the Harry Potter podcast, which I'm gonna geek out about because Keisha and I are both in it. Blind Beginnings recently started a Harry Potter club and a book club, and that idea kind of came around first, and then Shawn kind of said, well, hey, since we're going to do that anyway, why don't we do a podcast episode that basically, geeks out about Harry Potter? So we had Keisha and I, who are both longtime fans of the series, and then we had Ginny, who, kind of is a little newer to the series, and we talked about it. We introduced the series, we talked about why we liked it, all that kind of stuff, and, of course, promoted the book club. So I think ideas kind of just come out of every which corner possible, really.
Yeah, and after I listened to that episode, I was actually saying to Rob, it actually prompted me to start rereading the books again. So I've started.
There you go. See, look.
You should join our book club.
Okay. You want to back in your 20s there, Ryan?
They were really good books. I really enjoyed them, and so I have no problem going back to them again.
That's cool. It's funny, Clement's saying we don't really have a plan. Well, I always have a plan. So it's not, I'm always like, okay, I need to feel like we at least have 2 episodes recorded or ready or in the works before, so that I can relax for that week.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
And if we don't have a topic, then I'm just like reaching out, looking at our programs and saying, which of these can we talk about? And then asking the youth, hey, who wants to come and talk about our life skills workshop? Or who wants to come and talk about our fitness class? So we can always draw back on that when we get stuck.
Because I shouldn't say we don't have a plan. I should have probably said we're flexible in the way we plan these things.
Yeah.
But like Shawn said, I think we generally like to have 2 episodes recorded, before we start putting anything out, because that, like she said, gives us kind of a backup if, for some reason 1 week, there's dead silence and there's nothing that seems to be striking any sort of inspiration to anybody.
Well, and you definitely want that, because I was going to ask the question. I do most of the booking for our podcast, and I try to book shows at least a month out, because the last thing I want, and I hate, is not being able to get a guest. And if we've got no show next week, it's just I start panicking.
Yeah.
So you definitely want to have a backup just in case a guest can't make it or something occurs that you just need to fall back on. So.
Yeah, we've been really lucky so far. There have been a lot of last minute slap togethers, like, okay, here's what we're going to do in 2 days. And I need this person. And
fortunately, the thing about having last minute things now is, most of us have time to jump in last minute if we need to. So,
well, and what's funny too is that what we found early on was the fact that generally 9 times out of 10, if you ask somebody to come on a podcast and be interviewed, they're going to say yes. We were quite shocked at how easy it was to get people on, and I don't know if that's just because it's just people are kind of thrilled to be a part of a podcast.
Yeah,
it's an.
I think that is part of it, because you don't everybody listens to podcasts, right? But I don't think a lot of people kind of ever picture themselves being on one. I know that was the first time I felt when you guys had me back, way back when. They've only had me they've only had me around for 1 episode, and I think now I know why.
It's that damn guitar.
Yeah, it's that guitar and the fact that Steve's known me too long to trust anything I say.
I think the only people that have ever rejected us were Microsoft. Damn you, Microsoft. That was recent too. That wound's still fresh.
Let's not rub any salt in it then.
We did by Microsoft twice.
Oh, jeez.
Did once.
Ouch.
So that was a good show. Apple Accessibility has said no a couple.
Really?
But they went on to another podcast, another accessibility podcast. It's like, what are we doing wrong?
Yeah. Why them, not us?
Lord, right now, I am outraged.
Yeah, write some. Let's get a letter writing campaign going.
Yeah.
We demand.
I think I just need people to talk to.
I think Ryan, the problem is that we keep giving them the address to the website, and they listen to episodes, and that probably defers them.
I don't know. I keep telling them we want more Apple content, and they keep saying no. So, well, screw Apple.
But we digress.
Yes, we do.
As we do.
Clement and Nika and you guys have mentioned, you listen to podcasts. So what are some examples of shows that you listen to?
Oh, yes.
Oh boy. Okay.
Oh,
so
boy.
I could go on a 5-hour rant about this, but I'm not going to. So basically, I love true crime podcasts. I'm such a true crime junkie, and one of my favorites is Case File True Crime. I also am a huge fan of Harry Potter, and I am subscribed to exactly 7 different Harry Potter podcasts because I believe in being a purist. I also just love podcasts that deep dive into episodes of my favorite shows and kind of dissect them.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah, a very wide, random array of interests.
Yeah, mine is definitely a little bit more narrow. I follow a lot of different churches in North America because I have friends who attend them and I like to listen to what they talk about. So I have a few pastors who do podcasts who I follow. And then some other stuff would be a few of the accessibility podcasts. So AT Banter, of course. Cool Blind Tech is another one that I follow because I'm a geek and I like tech. And so but I'm pretty open to anything. Those are just the podcasts that I listen to on a regular basis. But there are some times when friends will point me at a podcast episode for something, or I'll have a topic that I'm curious about. Is that a goat?
Sorry,
Yes.
that's the sheep.
She's on a farm, I think.
I'm sorry, this is the only quiet place right now.
And it's not very quiet, I gotta say.
I was gonna say.
I don't know if you can
Well,
hear my
it's-
So it's either gonna be
it's either
guitars
this.
or crows.
Farm animals.
I'm just saying it's either this or video games with my brother. So
No, actually, this is the first goat that we've had on the show. So feel free, get closer to the goat. Actually, we want to hear it.
But anyway, I would love
Yes,
to.
go ahead.
Okay. Sorry guys, I apologize for the sound effects. There's some chickens as well you may hear, but
Get closer to
but
the chicken coop.
my absolute favorite podcast, like I have a wide range as well, but my favorite podcast is one called Radio Lab, which is kind of this, they report on a whole bunch of different topics, like really wide range, which I love. And their reporting is magnificent, and their sound effects and just everything about their podcast is really engaging. And I've always really loved their style. And I also enjoy, I love to hear interviews with just people. Like I have this other podcast that I really love called Other People's Lives, which is just interviews with just people with very diverse lifestyles, and whether just I would highly recommend. I mean, some of the podcasts are kind of silly, but you just pick through and find the ones that are interesting to you. And then I don't know. I just, like I said about the Limitless podcast, I really enjoy the kind of podcasts that are just that organic conversational style. It's really it seems like you get this opportunity almost as a listener, as an audience member, to sit in on a conversation that you're not actually having, but you get to be part of it, and I just think that's really cool. That's the great thing about podcasts.
Yeah, and I think that's actually a really, really good way to look at it. Very early on, we realized the very same thing, that it's all about conversation, and that's is that a cow?
It's really distracting me. I'm trying so hard not to laugh.
Okay, I'm gonna try to find a different spot.
I love it. Oh,
I'm gonna try to find a different spot. I'm
Well,
so
that
sorry.
was super windy before, so this is better. But
I was just upstaged by a cow.
Rob is
Was it a cow?
That's okay. It's fine. I thought it was a cow. It might have been.
I think
golly.
it's a goat.
Oh, damn you, goat.
push it to the cow and I'll hit the cowbell.
I thought that my phone would be blocking out more than this, but anyway, I apologize.
No, it's fine, Keisha. I think that
Apparently
Your listeners
Zoom's. Yeah, you're good. That's fine. That's
your
very
listeners
entertaining.
will get a treat.
no. In fact, do we have a show next week, Ryan? Let's talk to the goat.
Is Keisha's coming back on? Absolutely.
just to play host of the goat.
That's great.
Let's interview barnyard animals.
I completely forgot what I was
What
going
were
to
you
say.
talking about? Yeah.
I don't know. It's okay. It wasn't that important. Yeah, Radiolab, that is a great one. That's one of the first podcasts I think I ever listened to as well. And their production values and the information that they can pack into a 40-minute episode is astounding. But you're right. I mean, that is the power of the podcasting platform, I think, is that when you create a podcast, you can really just sort of go in any direction. There's never going to be a set rule where you're sort of locked into a certain format.
Yeah, I think one of the other things we want the podcast to do is to educate people about blindness. So I can see in the future there might be some ranting about just, those situations that happen in life.
All the pet peeves?
Yeah, I think maybe there'll be some monologues. It's like, here's something that happened today, and it's a frustrating thing that happens, and this is why I find it frustrating, and this is what I wish people would do. And I feel like we could end up going in that direction too.
Well, and that's what I love about having a free-form podcast, though, is that we're not locked into things that we can talk about and things that we can't talk about. Really, like, as long as we discuss it first, I think we're open to a lot wider range of topics than we were to, there's certain podcasts that you say, oh, we'll talk about this, but ranting may not be part of the equation.
Yeah. Same time, you want to come across as being real, open, honest, right? And, we all know as blind and visually impaired people, life isn't always a box of chocolates.
No.
And that's just a fact of life. That's the way it is. And if we can share those experiences with people and, give them solutions or, show them how to get around a particular problem or suggest, a solution. Yeah. What we're doing is educating, right? And we all know the world needs more education.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And especially they need different perspectives. And I think that's the other thing that colors all of these episodes, no matter what the topic is that it's all from that perspective that I think is important to get out there.
One of the questions I had for you, Clement, being a fellow guitar player, is, and someone who's blind, how do you tune your guitar?
Perfect pitch.
Yeah, he's a cheater.
Show off.
Sorry, Steve.
Damn.
Oh, can I tell the perfect pitch story?
Oh my goodness. Yes, you can.
It's totally off topic, but since you went there anyways. So one summer, we were at camp, and I think you were volunteering. Were you volunteering? Yeah.
Yes,
okay. So Clement was volunteering, and it was the talent show, and our talent together, which is really more his talent, was to play a song using water glasses and just hitting a spoon against the different glasses. And watching Clement tune the water was the most hilarious thing I've ever seen in my life. So, we tried different temperatures, and it's like different amounts of water in the glass would make a different note. It was super cool.
Yeah, cool for you. It was painstaking for me.
Except at the time we went to actually play the song, the temperature had changed in some of the glasses, and it's like they a little bit went out of tune.
Oh.
Yeah. Welcome to.
It's great.
Yeah. Every guitarist knows that problem. Temperature matters. Yeah. So yeah, that was. I still can't believe I did that.
It was great. So yeah, he definitely has perfect pitch.
Although, so Ryan, to answer your question, actually, I do use perfect pitch, but then now, because I find myself playing live a lot more, I use a Rode guitar tuner. Shout out to Band Industries because they're really cool. And this is tech related. So their tuner is accessible simply because it's not a tuner that lights up when you get the correct pitch. The tuner actually winds the string for you. So what you do is you put the head around the peg, and it'll actually wind it. And when it uses vibrations to match with frequencies on the spectrum.
Oh, cool.
So when it hits the right pitch, it'll beep and it'll vibrate.
Wow.
And then if it hits the wrong pitch, it'll go and it'll vibrate. So then you so it's a nice alternative for situations where my perfect pitch don't work. Like, when I'm on a stage and my guitar has to be muted and I can't tune it. Unless I put my head down to my guitar, that just looks weird. So
Yeah, I also I've the roadie too for my electrics and acoustics, and then a roadie for my basses.
There you go. See, so we're on the same page there.
Awesome.
We should talk to them. I contacted them about accessibility because there are certain things that I wish it kind of did a little better, but haven't heard back from them yet either. So
Cool.
Yeah, we should have them on. I mean, that's the thing. That's the really fun thing about coming up with topics for shows.
Yeah.
Is that the world is your oyster. And like, you remember, Ryan? Remember we had Wheelie Guitars on, and it's just a small guitar maker down in the States, but they specifically make guitars for people who are in wheelchairs.
Yeah.
Oh, that's super cool.
Yeah. So, it's the world is really your oyster when it comes to people to talk to.
Well, I mean, if you can think about something to talk about, chances are there's going to be somebody who's willing to talk about it.
That's right.
That's the best thing. We could talk. Ryan and I could, and Steve could geek out about guitar gear forever. That's when I would love to talk about is accessible guitar gear.
Well, we could do that on Limitless.
Yes, we
Just
could.
saying.
Yes.
We could also do it on AT
The
Banter.
idea came up on our show.
What's that, Steve?
Yeah,
Uh-oh.
you can have that one.
Ours
It's
now.
more technology.
TM.
That show's over. Get out.
Yeah.
So Nika, do you have any hobbies or interests and tips or tricks for what you do or what you enjoy?
Yeah, so I'm actually starting to learn guitar as well, which is interesting because I'm doing it without kind of physical lessons because of COVID.
Mm-hmm.
But as for things that I'm actually good at, or I'd like to fool myself into thinking I'm good at, is that I love fashion and makeup, just because I think a lot of people assume that just because I can't see, I shouldn't care about my appearance or care about things that I'm not able to see. So I'm really passionate about kind of doing research into makeup, buying new makeup, doing my own makeup, presenting myself. Just because, I can't see everything that I'm doing, I don't think it means that I shouldn't do certain activities that everyone else gets to do.
And so how do you go about applying makeup in such a way that you actually know you're looking how you want to look?
So I did kind of ask other blind people for help and watch YouTube videos, but I just kind of do a lot of blending. I really make sure I do everything symmetrically. When I put a brush in a product, I do a certain amount of swipes, for example. I do have kind of low vision, so I will take pictures of my makeup, zoom in, and see if it's kind of blended properly. I kind of try and really feel what I'm doing exactly like on my face, and also, it does take me longer kind of than most people.
Right.
So does that mean can we expect a fashion/makeup show of Limitless coming in the future?
I would love that. Now, if I will be allowed to make a 10-hour podcast, that's another story.
Maybe just an introduction to. Yeah, definitely. I think that would be a great topic.
Yeah, and I think that might be something that, most people who may be becoming blind or losing their vision may not even think about, right? How am I going to apply my makeup, or how do I wash my hair, or how do I know the shampoo from the conditioner?
Yeah, and I think a lot of people kind of think it's a frivolous kind of vain thing, and it maybe is. Like, that's a small part of my life. I have so many other hobbies that I do besides fashion, but I think it still has its kind of own place in life.
For fashion, do you use any sort of color identifiers, or do you still have enough vision to see color?
I do have enough vision to identify colors, but I do also have a color indicator just in case I'm in somewhere that doesn't have good lighting.
Right. And Keisha, we have to ask you the same question.
Oh boy. I'm always like adding new interests to my interest plate and always like exploring new things, but I guess lately, like, the big things that I've been really interested in have been like, I'm really big into theater. I love acting and singing and carrying on. And I also, it's funny because during COVID, similar to Nika, I've picked up the ukulele, which has been really fun. And also doing online classes, and it's always fun because I don't know about Nika, but I'm always searching for like the kind of tutorials where they're giving you like, put, you know, your index finger on blah, blah, blah string, blah, blah, blah fret. And I'm like, and if they're not doing that, sometimes you'll get a tutorial that's like, just put this finger on that fret and yeah.
Oh, so annoying.
Yes.
And then, so anyways, but I mostly have had quite a bit of success. It's been a really good time.
That's what we should do, Ryan. Blind guitar tutorials.
Well, I was
And then,
sorry, Keisha. I was just going to mention that I don't know if he's still around, but there's a gentleman named Bill Brown who has music by ear, which are all lessons designed for people who are blind. And he's got guitar, bass, I think ukulele, violin, penny whistle. He's got
wow, that's pretty brilliant.
Yeah. So if you look for Bill Brown music by ear, you'll find those lessons.
Yeah, and I can send you I found a YouTube channel that has like a whole entire beginner ukulele course, and they're really descriptive.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
I actually
that's
I took a 10 lesson one, and he was super awesome. He was just this random British guy that was really descriptive, and I was like,
Okay, I
bless
think you might be talking about the same guy.
That kind of is, you know, like the one thing is, you know, learning instrument. You have to kind of just look at 1.5 billion YouTube channel. You have to surf through them and find the good ones.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of lessons that don't need adapting. There are just a lot of people who are really good at describing.
Right.
Yeah.
It just takes a lot of. There just isn't any filter for, you know, blind friendly guitar courses.
That's exactly it. Yeah. And then other than that, I consider myself a fairly active person. Maybe not so much during COVID, but I'm really into like biking. And I was really into skiing before I started becoming a student and doing student budget life. But, but like, you know, just trying new things is honestly a hobby of mine.
And so I'm going to ask you guys this question. Did you always have the positive attitude or outlook to go out and try new things? Was that supported by your family, your parents, or was that something you had to learn?
It's honestly kind of a mixture. Like, there are days certainly still where, you know, like I personally don't always have, like sometimes I'll be like, oh, like it's hard. Like, you know, it sucks that some things are so inaccessible, or, you know, I wish I could drive or this or that. But, so, you know, those days do come and go, as I know they do for many, but, you know, if you want, like for me, if I want to like be successful and keep going places and trying new things, like, you know, you're not going to get anywhere by sitting with a bad attitude. Just like, you know, I have to be positive, and I want to be positive, and I have, you know, it's, you know, because a lot of like anything that, how do I say this? But like anything that like, anything is possible, well, within, you know, a few limits, but there's always that first person who has to try it. And there's always that first person who has to like break those barriers to like, if you're feeling brave, or if you're feeling, you know, boisterous, then, you know, sometimes you can be the person that breaks down those barriers and, or just live your life and find things that bring you joy.
Yeah, and I would add to that by saying the same thing for sure. I you know, and that's one of the things that it's like Keisha said, you know, everything's possible within reason, right?
Yeah.
But it's like what Shawn always said, and what Blind Beginnings always said with us, is we believe in, you know, a no limits philosophy where everybody should be able to be allowed to decide their own limits, rather than having limits decided for you by people around you, right? And like Keisha said, you know, sometimes there are any, you know, things that you can do. Somebody always has to start it and be a pioneer. And I can speak to this because I've done Aikido, a martial art from Japan, for the last 5 years. And Steve and I have talked about this extensively. And, you know, that was a journey of the same thing, because there were no other blind people at the time doing Aikido in Vancouver / British Columbia. There have been, you know, 20, 30 years ago, but it wasn't for a long spell, and it wasn't anywhere local. So nobody really had any history to go off of. So it was hard. You know, I would email dojo after dojo after dojo after dojo, and all of them would either not reply, which, you know, spoke pretty loudly, or they would reply, but they were either very reluctant, or they'll say, well, you can come if you want, or they would just say, sorry, can't do it. And it was really frustrating. And so sometimes I think you just have to, and for me, that attitude of support mostly came from all my teachers, because my family has always been very iffy about things in terms that I could. So I did not, one of the places I did not get pushed to try new things was my family environment. But in school and my teachers and with Blind Beginnings and with Shawn and other youth at CNIB, the idea was always, well, if you don't try it, then you can't do it. And so that was kind of the thing that helped me get there. And it took 4 years before I found a dojo that was willing to actually talk to me. And they were the ones that I stuck with. So, I just, all that to kind of echo what Keisha said about how somebody basically somebody always has to break new ground before it actually starts to look possible.
Mm-hmm. I can actually relate to that so much, especially kind of with the family environment and also trying to find a place that'll let you do an activity you're interested in. Because I went through the exact same thing with dance, and I've kind of just always been told that I couldn't dance. And I wanted to do ballet because, of course, I want to do the hardest type of dance that's out there and the one that has to be exact. Because, why be easy when you can be a difficult person? But I did find a studio eventually, and I was kind of able to make it work. And I think that kind of came from a lot of the confidence I gained from being a part of Blind Beginnings. And even today, I kind of struggle with the idea that I can set my own limits. Like, I have some days when I'm so determined to do my career and work in the medical field, but I have some days where, like, what I've always been told is that the only thing I could study are psychology, computer science, and being a vision teacher. Like, sometimes I do have those days where I feel like I should kind of go back into the box that I'm told to go in. And it's something that kind of I'm struggling with, and I'm kind of, it's an ongoing issue. And I think I have gotten a lot better ever since, like, joining the youth leadership program.
There's an expression in Aikido and Japanese martial arts that I really like, because Aikido and other martial arts like judo and stuff have to do a lot with falling and learning how to fall properly and get back up. And I think that's always been something that stuck to me as well, even before I started doing Aikido, but more so since I started 5 years later. And it's the expression is translated, kind of literally translates to 7 down, 8 times up, which means every time you fall, you have to find the strength to get up yourself and do it again. And so, I hear what Nika's saying, because I think everybody, and Shawn, maybe you can add more to this too, but I think everybody has down days, and you just have to you have to let yourself lie there for a bit and then get up again once you're ready. Or sometimes you might not be ready to get up yet, but somebody else will either pull you back up, or somebody else will be vocally pushing for you to get back up and do it again. And so
it'd be kicking you to get back up. No. Get up.
Yeah, it's probably more of a kick from me. Get up, you guys. Come on. We got this.
Yeah. I mean, hey, whatever makes you get up, right? As long as it works.
Yeah.
As long as it doesn't kill you.
I think I when I started Blind Beginnings, I was so much the cheerleader of no limits, no limits, no limits. And for a few years there, I forgot to talk about how it does take a lot of resilience, and you do have to really persevere. And it is a lot of work to be able to achieve whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. And so I've kind of realized that in the last few years that I do believe there are no limits, or I believe that what people think are limits are not necessarily limits for us. And there always is a first person who did it, right? And everyone believed they couldn't, and they did it. So even the things we think are limits maybe aren't. But it's not easy. It doesn't happen easily. It definitely means you gotta really push hard to rise above all of that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've noticed over the years. I haven't always been blind. And so, coming into contact with organizations like CNIB and Blind Beginnings, and listening to podcasts and hearing people's stories about what they're accomplishing and how they're accomplishing them. You know, you guys are right up there now. Even though it's only 5 episodes in, you're encouraging, you're inspiring, you're motivating people. And, you know, I just, again, you know, I want to say kudos to you guys, and I continue to want more episodes and look forward to more and what the future holds for the podcast.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's very encouraging.
Yeah, and I think that I would add to that that, you know, I think that one of the things that's going to make the podcast very unique is this youthful energy and this the unique perspective that you guys have. And, you know, when you think of a podcast too, the other great thing about it is that it's, you know, you could be talking to people in Ireland or Russia, or, I mean, there's no real border to who you could reach. And, you know, if one person out there listens to the podcast and relates to what you guys are talking about, and it makes their day a little better, you know, it's going to be, all that hard work is going to be really worth it.
And don't expect people to email you saying how much we love the show, because it doesn't happen.
I was just going to say, you probably get more emails about what people don't like than people
recording the shows and putting them out there, because you just don't know who you're reaching.
Yeah, it's a weird thing. I know. I keep asking for numbers, but what does that mean? And how many people actually listen to it? You know, just like, did they listen to all 3? Did the same person? Like, we don't know.
Stats.
Yes.
If you want to get letters, you got to lip off Apple.
I think we're a little young to get controversial. We might need to.
Ooh, I don't know about that.
Earn some.
It's never too early to be controversial, Shawn.
We could
Especially
make a name from it.
Especially in 2020.
Well, actually, let me throw this out to the room. Just whoever wants to answer or has an answer, just jump in. But has anything surprised you about podcasting in terms of now that everybody has an episode under their belt? Was it easier than you thought? Was it harder? What didn't you like about it? Just anything at all, just general thoughts.
Well, one thing that I really like about podcasts, or at least in the way that we're doing it, some podcasts are different, but it's just audio. So, you know, you don't have to worry about how you're presenting yourself in terms of like your body language and whatnot. So you can just focus on just your ideas and the things that you're putting out there and the concepts that you guys are discussing. And I personally really enjoy that, because it, you know, takes the pressure off a little bit. You know, it's honestly, I was surprised at how easy it was to podcast with Limitless. It you know, I kind of was like, oh, is it going to be, am I going to be really nervous? Is it going to be like awkward silences? But it's so much easier.
You can edit out awkward silences.
Well, that's it.
That's the best
right.
part.
But I thought for myself, I was like, is it going to be like when I step out on stage and like have that little moment of, but no, it's just more like I'm having a phone call with my friends, and and it's, you know, everybody that I've had the pleasure of being on podcast with has been really easy to talk to. So
I think for me, I'm realizing, like, because everybody I've interviewed so far I've known pretty well, and I forget that the listeners don't. And so I'm having to remember, like, we could probably do a better job of introducing our guests, maybe, or letting them introduce themselves, or, you know, be like halfway through an episode and I realize the listeners don't even know this person's blind, and it's kind of relevant to what we're talking about. So that has been something I'm just aware of as I'm listening to the episodes. But it's funny what you said, Keisha, about not having to worry about what you look like and your body language, and how much pressure that does take off. Because, you know, in any media interview or any other kind of place where you're especially for me, being the face of the organization all the time, I'm always worrying about that. Am I dressed appropriately? Is my hair okay? Like, do I have, I don't know, whatever. Like, I'm just always worried about my appearance. And yeah, it's so nice not to have to do that.
Well, and even with video, right? That can be an issue, even if you're not in person. If you're on a Zoom call, you know, you kind of go, okay, what can they see behind me? Like, if I didn't make my bed this morning, can they see that? Or can they see the shelf that's to my left that has stuff that, you know, just like that's a mess.
Personal stuff,
Embarrassing
yeah,
things you don't want people to see.
Yeah, luckily
Can
not
you see
me. But
can you see like my pictures of me when I was like a baby? Or
yeah, like is there what finding out what's in the figuring out what's in the shot is really kind of I find really frustrating, which is nice to not have to do.
Or like accidentally forget that you're gonna that you're picking your nose and you're like,
yeah.
oh oops.
Or like you're running somebody will say something and you'll do a face palm and you'll be like, oh yeah, right, they're watching me. Probably shouldn't have face palmed to that.
Rolling your eyes.
On our pub nights, when we do our pub nights on Zoom, a lot of people have their cameras turned on, and many of them don't have vision either. But they've still got their camera on. And it's interesting to see the facial expressions on some of them when certain people talk.
Oh, yes, I can imagine.
You can see the eyes roll time to time.
That is funny.
That's hilarious.
My favorite is like when, for example, if we're having like a meeting and it's like a Blind Beginnings youth meeting or whatever, and we're like, most of us are visually impaired, and some of us have our cameras on, some off. But like I know that there's a couple employees for Blind Beginnings or like participants who have more sight, and I'm like sitting there wondering, I wonder what they see.
Yeah.
Are there any topics that are going to be off limits on your podcast?
Ooh.
I did ask them that question actually, and I was shot down. We're called Limitless, so there should be.
Came back to bite you.
Yeah.
I mean, we're obviously trying to keep it like family friendly, but
True.
But we're I mean, yeah, like why not talk about some of the bigger and smaller things?
Well, and again, I think, there are topics that people may want answers to, and if we're all kind of hiding in the dark, afraid to talk these subjects, nobody's ever going to learn, right? So somebody has to step out into the light and say, here's how it is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, and that's what I like about the fact that we are going in a direction where we may have, ranty sessions, because I think a lot of people expect podcasts about disability to be inspiring, and I said that. Sorry. Okay, so my camera is off, and I'm doing giant air quotes with my hands right now. But it's like people like say, it's positive, and I'm like, no, it's actually not. And so I like the fact that we're open to that idea because, like Ryan said earlier, it's about being real, right?
The nitty gritty.
You don't, and you don't want to pretend that being a blind person is always, my goal is to encourage people by telling them all the positive things I can do, and then whereas I want to be able to tell, and this is what I try and do to especially with my friends who are sighted, is I say, hey, today sucked. And you know why? Because I'm blind and I live in a society that's not meant for blind people.
Absolutely.
And I think that's really important. So I think, I would, personally for me, and things that I'm willing to talk about, there isn't a lot that would be off limits. But, I like the idea that our podcast is willing to be transparent.
Man, I'm looking forward to these future episodes. I don't know about these guys, but man, I can hardly wait.
I'm waiting to hear the future episodes where people are bending over and smashing their forehead on tables like I do.
Yeah.
Ouch. Oh, that's the worst. We could talk about that. That could be a topic. All the different ways you accidentally hurt yourself.
Top 10 stupid blind moments.
That would actually be super funny for the blog.
Yeah, that's a good idea. All right, you inspired us, Ryan.
Leaving your Windows Messenger on at Blind Camp and not realizing your display name was changed because you didn't check that part of your screen.
That would never happen.
Or not realizing you're talking about how much you don't like one of your university professors when they're walking by.
No, that's a bad one.
Ouch.
But your GPA didn't look very good after that.
My son's doing an electrician's course at BCIT right now, and they've switched everything to Zoom.
Yeah.
And some of the profs have no idea really how to conduct an online session.
Oh my God,
So
yes.
He was it was in one the other day, and somebody forgot to mute their microphone while this guy was futzing about, and you suddenly heard in the middle of the presentation, "Dude, what are you even doing?"
A slip up.
Yep.
Oh man.
Classic.
Happens to sighted people too. It's not just us.
Yep.
Yep.
This is a side note, but we're gonna have so many funny stories about like all of these like little things that we've had to do since quarantine and everything. Oh my goodness!
Oh,
like all of the Zoom and like schooling, and it's gonna be a time.
Yeah, you gotta have a segment each show called "One Time at Bowen Camp."
Got 10 years of bone to draw for that.
Exactly.
Yikes.
Okay, well, let's tell the fine folks at home where the heck they can find the Limitless Podcast.
Oh, we're everywhere where you find podcasts, but blindbeginnings.ca/limitless will take you to the top 4 or 5 most recent episodes.
We are also on Apple Music and Spotify.
And I think we post our episodes to the Blind Beginnings YouTube channel as well, right?
That's right. So we are literally everywhere.
Mm-hmm. Limitless possibilities and locations.
Well, listen, everybody. We are so thrilled to have you guys on. This has been a lot of fun. This is way funner than most of our other episodes. So we might have you back.
Wait.
Yeah.
And wait, what's the goat's name? Because I want to
Sorry.
We
I
need to
am
give
so
mention
sorry.
to the goats.
Okay, believe it or not, those sheep are actually like 2 acres away, and you could hear them that clearly. And
Wow.
there are about 30 sheep, but but yeah, to me they sounded distant. I was like, oh, they'll surely not hear this.
The guys at Zoom didn't think about how to noise cancel farm animals yet.
That's true.
I
We're
apologize, but they have many names. The
sheep.
Do you actually know all 30 names?
not all 30, but we have a couple. No, I wouldn't tell them to their faces that they're our favorites, but we have a few favorites that we have named. For example, one of them, her name's Thumbelina, and she was a bottle lamb. Anyway, I'll have another podcast.
That's another Limitless episode.
Yeah,
We'll talk about sheep.
Farm tour with Keisha.
Yeah, that's a great
You
idea.
have to include all of the drama between the animals, which one do you like most? All the tea.
And do you? So every night before you go to bed, do you count all 30? Is that how you go to bed at night?
No, you know what? The hard work of the farm day is enough to put this girl to sleep.
I smell a Netflix series, like in the vein of Tiger King. It can be Sheep Queen.
Yeah.
So good.
Oh, this is classic. Now this will forever be down.
This is on the internet. You're not. It's gonna be out there
famous now.
Remember that.
Yeah.
Who reached out to us from Russia? They will hear this in Russia.
That's right. That's right. We do have a listener in Russia. So
That's so cool.
That's
hello,
fantastic.
Svetlana in Siberia.
Yes.
Wow,
Yeah, right.
that's cool.
We were impressed. We tried to get her on the show, but she apparently thinks that her accent would be too thick. And I don't know what we would talk to her about. Just you're in Russia and you listen to us. that makes you
must be
fairly unique.
special.
That's right.
She works for a company that we can talk about later.
Okay.
Great.
All right, guys. Well, listen, thanks again for coming on. And we look forward to more episodes. And for anyone who's interested, we're going to include all the Limitless links in our show notes. So you can go check them out. Highly recommended.
Thank you so much for
Thanks
having
very
us.
much.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thanks for
All right,
coming,
guys.
guys.
Oh, that was fun.
Yeah, absolutely. We need more of that.
Yeah. You know
More
what? I really do feel like that's what makes the podcast really unique, is having that youthful energy and that it's a very unique voice, and they've got such an energy and such a positive attitude. And I feel like that's really important to share.
Yeah, I agreed. Like I said, during the interview, when I listen to the shows, I find that they're uplifting, and, they're encouraging, they're inspiring, a lot of the stories. and just kind of make you take a look at yourself and go, why aren't I acting that way or doing this? If they can do it, so can I. And, we put ourselves in boxes, and, that needs to stop.
I don't know of any other podcast out there that is like this one. So I think that they really they're really positioned well to really make a difference.
They need an Instagram account. You got Youth with Energy.
Yeah, there you go. It's that Instagram. Exactly. The kids love that Instagram, I tell you.
Absolutely.
Wow. Well, that made me tired. That was a little more chaotic than we're used to. But we're old. See, that's the thing. They can take that all in stride, but
yeah.
I need a nap now. Hey, Ryan.
Yes, Rob.
Where can people find us?
They can find us at www.atbanter.com.
They can also drop us an email if they so desire at cowbell@atbanter.com. See, they don't have a cowbell. That's what they're missing. But they can't have the cowbell because that's our thing. But so they'll have to do like a tambourine or like a triangle or I don't know, some other percussive instrument.
They've got their, what's the guy's? I forgot the author's name now, but they got the guitar player. Not yes. Clement, but they've got, Bill
Brown? Who you doing?
No, it was an author who's mystery, suspense.
An author, mystery? Now I'm intrigued. We're going to get this reference. Okay, it's an author who plays the guitar?
Similar to the music Clement was playing. Like
Alfred Hitchcock?
Hitchcock, there you go.
Okay, Go ahead. No, go do it again.
I don't remember what I was saying.
Oh, fuck.
They could use Clement's guitar playing as their instrument of choice instead of a cowbell. Just
That's
those
true.
little.
That's true. Why didn't we think of that? You should totally have the guitar in your hand when we're doing the show. You live in the guitar dungeon.
I do, but they're on the wall behind me.
Well, take them down. We do. We could be having little musical things. I liked it. I liked the little musical background.
All right, Steve, next week, you're up. Grab your guitar.
Yeah.
I'd have to tune it. Maybe put new strings on.
I can't believe they have a thing that actually tunes the guitar for you.
Yep.
So, I mean, all I need now is the one that plays the guitar for you, and then I'll be...
They do have that.
Do they? Where you can just strum and it does it?
No, it's called a musician. You pay them.
Oh. You had me going there for a second. Where were we? We email cowbell@atbanter.com. Where else?
Where else can they find us?
I don't know. It's just not it's not my department. I'm the email guy. I don't know. I can't think of it.
All right. Well, I can tell you where else they can find us.
Okay. Yes.
They can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Hey, that's right. That's true. Well, that was a big show. Big thanks to everybody out there for listening in. And a huge thank you to everybody at the Limitless Podcast. And we will see everybody next week.
This podcast has been brought to you by Canadian Assistive Technology, providing low vision and blindness solutions across Canada. Find us online at www.canastech.com. That's CANASSTECH.com. Or call us toll free at 1-844-795-8324. For all your assistive technology servicing needs, call Chaos Technical Services at 778-847-6840 or find them online at chaostechnicalservices.com.